Okay, so it looks like that we're live. So go ahead and tell me like a couple of sentences about your book and then I'll play it back.
Okay, well, so this is actually it's a sequel. It's the second book in the series, and I think there's at least one more book to come. And the series follows the adventures of Cordelia Shent, who is a half-elf follower of the goddess Isis. And basically, she's sent on missions to save the world. And in this book, she is actually on a more self-directed mission where she's helping out her halfling friend Rizo, who wants some help finding out what this mysterious amulet that he's found uh, can do. And that's how the adventure starts. And they get into all sorts of trouble on the way.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to mute myself and then play that back real quick. Oh, okay, I got to be over here. Okay, so it looks like that we're live. So go ahead and tell me like a couple of sentences about your book and then I'll play it back.
Okay, well, so this is actually it's a sequel. It's the second.
Beautiful. Okay, just a second here. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, I think I got them both paused. Okay, sorry about that. It is 6 o'clock, so welcome to Right Talk Wednesday. I am your slightly scattered host this week, Kit Kalestow. And as always, I just want to give the reminder that I am joined in the office by Skittles, the office cat. So if you see me kind of, reaching for the camera, I'm just protecting the camera from the cat because she does what she wants to do. Nobody's the boss of her. I am joined this week on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving by Daniel Cross, who I believe we're going to have the most fascinating conversation because he writes as R.A. Klepsis. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to, oops, I just minimized us, how to build an author persona. And we're also going to talk about how Nano helped him write his books. So before I click anything else, I'll just go ahead and pause and introduce Daniel. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on Right Talk Wednesday.
Oh, thanks very much, Kit. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, your book, The Amulet and the Dragon, just released on November 19th, and our viewers and listeners can find that link in the show notes, as always. Why don't you start by just telling our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
So I am an electrical engineer. I've had a long career doing very technical work, and as part of that work, I've been doing writing for technical purposes, writing specs, writing manuals and descriptions of circuits and all and things like that. But I've always had stories in me. I've always been a big fan of fantasy and science fiction. I've always wanted to write stories. And I had this story, and I decided to take advantage of NaNoWriMo to get it out of me and get it on at least digital paper and see if I thought it was any good.
Well, wonderful. And with that process, was that your was that your first NaNoWriMo?
Right. Well, it took me three NaNoWriMos to write the first book. The book has got three parts, and I essentially wrote one part a year for 3 years. And the final year, I finally said that I am going to finish this thing, and so I made a big push to get it done. And the whole thing, I had about 35,000 words left of the book, so I didn't get to 50,000 that year, but I did finish the book. at least the first draft of it. And the first draft, like, reading through it again, it seemed like there was not, it was the story I wanted to tell. And now the origins of that story I should probably go into because it comes out of a session of tabletop role-playing games that I did with my kids. My kids came to me one day and said, "We want to play Dungeons and Dragons." And so I put together an adventure for them. We made characters and they did this adventure that ended up growing and they ended up liking the game. And so we kept playing and this campaign went on for 10, 12 years
Wow.
ultimately. Like my kids went from, being, you know, early teens to being basically grown people during the time of this campaign. And so I have a lot of material, and so the first two books is maybe the first few years of what we played. And I have a lot more material to still get through, but that's the origin of it, and so that's where the story comes from. And wrote, so I said, wrote the first kind of chapter of that, and I thought it was really good, so I decided to self-publish it.
Awesome. Well, excuse me for a moment. My cat has something she should not have. While I take care of that, um, I think honestly that is like one of the most heartwarming stories that I have heard in a while about how a book came to be. Could you tell our listeners just a little bit about adapting a role-playing campaign to a book, because that's not an uncommon way to do it, but they're like
Mhm.
two totally different types of writing.
Oh, correct. And so I tried to do it more as a novel and not necessarily as lit RPG where game mechanics come into the actual narrative. The mechanics are described, the mechanics of how to cast spells and how weapons work and things like that. It's in the book, but it's described in a sort of literary novelistic way. It's not described in terms of game mechanics. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that I decided to, because I felt like I didn't really write it. It was really written by all of us. It was that's what role-playing games are. They're a collaborative storytelling endeavor. So I didn't really feel like it was right for me to take full credit for it. So I decided to write it under a pen name. And rather than just like make up some other pen name, I decided to use a character from the adventure that they had met. It was basically a non-player character that they had met during the adventure, and they had actually told part of their story to this character that was in the actual gameplay. So it became very natural to say, "Oh yeah, he's going to write this book because he's heard the adventure from the people who lived it, and so he's just going to turn it into a book and novelize it." And so that's Klepsis. He's a wizard that the characters come and ask for help during their adventure, and so he actually appears in this book as a character. There's one chapter that's actually told from his point of view where he meets Cordella and Rizzo, the actual player characters. So it's very interesting because Klepsis is like, not only is he not a real person, he's a character in a fantasy world, and he's not even a main character. He's a side character in his fantasy world, but he thinks he's a main character, so he acts like that.
Oh,
Because everybody's the main character of their own story, right?
definitely. And a lot of those side characters, especially when you get a really well fleshed out role playing campaign, not just D&D, but a
Mhm.
lot of those side characters really start taking on an outsized importance when you get into the story. And so with
Yeah.
yeah, so with you, you were DMing the campaign, right?
Right. I was the DM for this campaign.
Yeah. Did you have any idea when you created this character that this would happen?
No, it was really just he was needed to progress the adventure because you'll read it in the book. The characters have got a very serious logistical challenge, and they need some pretty powerful magic in order to uh, solve their challenge. And so they just happen to run into this really powerful wizard And so it was needed for the adventure. It was a way to progress the adventure forward, and it just ends up being the perfect vehicle for conveying these stories. And so I've taken to as a means of promoting the books. He's got his own social media channels that he somehow accesses from his fantasy world. Like it's not really clear how he does that, but he's got a whole set of social media channels. He runs a website. He's got email address that people can go and write to him at. It's a wizard at Klepsis.com. He's got his own website. He writes a newsletter once a month to communicate with his many fans in this part of the material plane. And he's got a whole persona. He's participating in some online like writer prompts, and he always answers the prompts as if he's in his own world. There was one question about what kind of apps do you use to write? And so he's like, yeah, ink, paper. He mentioned that he liked to use Manicore quills as nibs for the pens. They worked really well.
That does that sounds so fun. That just sounds amazingly fun, and just the amount of creativity. I mean, there is that quote that any suitably or sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it all goes together. It all goes together. So, to kind of step back a little bit, um the you wrote the book over 3 NaNoWriMos. Did you
Hmm.
do any work on it in the meantime, or was it kind of a life happen sort of thing? And so you used NaNoWriMo to, just basically kind of kickstart you into writing?
I think I took advantage of one of the camps in between to write a little bit more because like the second NaNoWriMo, I really didn't get to write all that much. So the following April, I finished part two. And that was it was even kind of like I was doing NaNoWriMo, but I didn't have an account at the official NaNoWriMo website or anything. That didn't happen until the third NaNoWriMo where I said, okay, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to finish this book. So I made my account and I tracked my words and really kind of nose to the grindstone and got it done. Uh, and then and then for the second book, I said, okay, well, I need to do, more planning for to do this NaNoWriMo properly. So I took one of the camps in the year in between to do like a real outline because I had my story material. I had all my
Mm-hmm.
notes from the adventure, all my DM's notes. So I just had to write that in an outline form, and so that way I had a writing plan. So I knew what I was going to write. So that way, if I got stuck on something, I could skip ahead. And like getting into like my advice for people doing NaNoWriMo, to have a plan is what I would always tell
Mm.
people. Like it doesn't have to be a full outline. Like you can certainly pants your way through NaNoWriMo. Lots of people do it, but it helps to have some kind of a writing plan, even like if it's like just a beat sheet. Like, so you need that, all is lost moment or that midpoint, everything changes moment. So you don't know what it is, but you're gonna when you have to hit it and about what your word total is gonna be when you hit it. So you can write towards that, and if you get stuck somewhere, you can skip ahead and like assume that thing has happened already and just kind of go on from there. So you need to have that writing plan. That's always my advice to people to be successful at NaNoWriMo and get a draft that you can actually turn into a book is to have a plan. So I did that. I took basically one of the camps to make, I don't know, if maybe a 15,000 word outline. I put it in Scrivener, uh, basically, scene by scene, and I used like all the Scrivener metadata. So that way I could just export, because Scrivener lets you export just the metadata like into a file. So I did that. So that way I had my outline in a form where I could just pick a scene and just write that scene. And
Okay.
so the following NaNoWriMo, I really got through and I hit my 50,000 words with no problem. And I had a draft of the whole book.
Awesome. So I want to unpack that just a little bit for our listeners who may not be quite as familiar with some of the terminology as you and I are. So the
Okay.
NaNoWriMo camps, and please correct me if I get this wrong, but they happen like a few times a year or every other month.
It's April and either June or July. I can never remember
I
which.
was thinking July.
Yeah.
She is wild tonight. um, It is, yeah. So April and July, and basically you set your own word count goals. It's not like the big one where there's 50,000. You just set on what you want to work on. And they're kind of more informal. They like sort you into bunkhouses, I think, and or they
Uh,
can.
they have authors, published authors that write, care packages
Okay.
every week. They give you little pep talks. They call them care packages, which
Oh,
are kind of neat.
that is neat. As somebody who used to go to camp as a kid, yeah, that would be cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
So camps are just miniature NaNoWriMos. And then the beat sheet, we talked about this with the previous interview, but a beat sheet, and the one I'm familiar with really is the hero's journey and then romance, where depending on the genre, and this is just the things that usually happen in whatever genre you write. If it's a mystery, there's the there's a mystery moment, and then there's the clues and the apprehending of whoever did whatever happened, that sort of thing. So that instead of having an outline, like when I started writing, I wrote like chapter one, and then I was like 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and then chapter two. So what you were saying then is just more of, okay, I need this to happen, this to happen, this to happen, and I kind of want to get here like halfway or three quarters or whatever.
Right. That's
Okay.
that's all my advice to people. Like even if they
Yeah.
want like it's to me, I found for me an outline, a fairly detailed outline was better, where I knew what was going to happen in the scene, and I just had to, write the dialogue and the descriptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people prefer, they call it pantsing, where you fly by the seat of your pants, which means you have no idea what's going to come out. It's the story is not even in your head yet. It's just, maybe you've got a premise and that's it, and you're just going to write. And people very successfully turn out whole novels that way, and that like there's no I don't have any problem with that. But even if that's your plan, I would say to have some kind of a structure that you're writing to. That way, if you do run into a thing where you're just stuck, like maybe you got your characters into a situation that you have no idea how to get them out of, you know what has to happen later. So you
Definitely.
say, let me just put that on the back burner for now. I'll assume they got out of that somehow, and then I'm going to go on from there. I'll write the next thing. That way you don't get stuck and not finish, because that's like the worst thing is to end up not writing because you got stuck. Like
Exactly.
it's one thing if life intervenes or whatever, but like to like not know what to do next and not be able to write anything else because you don't know what happens in that scene. It's not a good spot to be in, especially when you've got that goal you're trying to meet.
Definitely. And I have to say, I used to be a very type A plotter. Now I'm more of a pantser, but I prefer to be a pantser with kind of a plan. Like I know this is where this is heading. I'm just not quite sure all of the side trips, everything we're going to take to get there. I find that with my story ideas, and of course it doesn't help that there's a good chance I have ADHD, so I have like more story ideas that come up like every day, and I'm like, guys, stop, I have to write. But the ones that are sitting on the back burner the longest are the ones where I just have, okay, this is an interesting premise, but I have no idea where they're going or what's going on. So, yeah, just having those beats and just having that idea that just, kind of vague, you can see kind of the outline of the city in the distance sort of thing. You're like, okay, I think we can get them there.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then Scrivener, oh gosh, we could do a whole show on Scrivener. It sounds like you use it in much more detail than I do. But
Yeah. I
Scrivener,
ended up not using any even desktop publishing software. I just exported right from Scrivener, and it got me pretty much everything that I needed for both books.
That's awesome. Yeah, I use Word if I have to write something for college. Um, Back up. You do not need to
Yeah,
get.
I have to use that for work.
Yeah,
It's
I use.
it's like and it's not by choice. It's just because I have to.
Hmm. Yeah, I did a short story for an essay project for a class. That's the thing now. It's all essay projects, and I was like, I'm writing it in Word, going, oh man, I wish I had Scrivener because to keep track of stuff. But it's amazing. I could do a whole show. I could do a whole series of shows on it.
Hmm.
I'm looking at some Linux based alternatives eventually, because I will be jumping off the Windows boat if they make me update to Windows 11.
Mm.
I hate
And
Windows.
it's coming.
I hate it. Oh my god, I hate Windows 11.
Mhm.
Don't ask me why. We'll do another show on it.
So
Yeah.
so I've actually my actual writing for the
Hmm.
most part was done actually in Google Docs
Okay.
on my phone.
Oh, you brave soul.
Like, and I actually did a comparison about whether I wrote faster on a regular keyboard or on my phone, and they're both about the same. Because I do word sprints on a regular basis, which I don't know if your viewers are familiar with the concept of a word sprint, where you set a timer and you just write
Hmm.
as many words as you can during that time. And so, like, I found that, for a 20-minute sprint, I would do 250 to 300 words, regardless of whether I'm using a full keyboard or my phone. They're the same. Uh, and so, but it's great because that way I could write anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm in the doctor's office waiting room, write something. I'm at the supermarket waiting for someone to make up their mind about which ice cream they want. Do some writing. Like whatever's going on, I have my phone, I can write. And that was great for meeting my NaNoWriMo goals. And I got very adept at moving things back and forth between Google Docs and Scrivener because Scrivener can export as a Word file, which Google Docs imports. So that was kind of what I did. Like I built my outline in Scrivener and then exported it as a doc and then sucked it into Google and then I had it right there.
Okay. And you
And
know
and and then to go back the other way, I just downloaded it from Google as a doc and sucked it back into Scrivener
that
and it was right there.
that makes total sense actually now that you're explaining that. Yeah. I and I used to back in the day I had a Palm Pilot PDA
I had
that
several.
I sat on my desk. I worked at a help desk for a big evil bank, and I had the Palm Pilot and a little mini foldable keyboard sitting on my desk. And
Mhm.
yeah, we were allowed 2 minutes between calls, and so I would quite often dash off a sentence real quick before I had to hit the available button. And yeah, so and that was just a very old version of the Google Docs, which is a much
Yeah.
more elegant version of that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah. Sorry, I use my phone to text and take phone calls.
That's perfectly okay.
But I also live on a farm and I'm never very far away from a laptop or a desktop. So yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
what you get used to.
Hmm. Absolutely.
That's cool. So I did kind of want to circle back. We took a side quest, which was pretty awesome, but I want to circle back. You said you didn't sign up for an official Nano account until the third time?
Right.
So you just heard about it and thought, "Hey, let's do this."
Yes, I think I heard about it.
Awesome.
I don't even know where I heard about it. It was just it was like a news thing. Oh yeah, people will write a novel in a month. Okay. I should do that. I have a novel I want to write. I should do that.
That's awesome. I love that. I totally applaud that. And so I did want to talk about so your book, the second book in the series, if I was looking at Amazon correctly, The Amulet and the Dragon, just
Hmm.
released a few days ago on the 19th,
Just this past Sunday, yeah.
just this past
Very
Sunday.
exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, congratulations. And
Thanks.
I know we were doing a little bit of a sound test before the show, but would you mind repeating or telling us just a little bit about that book?
Sure. So that the Amulet and the Dragon, it's the follow-up to Water Against Chaos. And in the first book, a young by elf standards, a young half elf. She's 40 years old, but that just means she's just becoming an adult because half elves live much longer. So she's decided to go out and explore the world, and she gets herself into the service of the goddess Isis, who basically sends her on a quest to save the world. And so that's done. And so she has saved the world in the first book. And now during that adventure, her halfling friend Rizo acquired a mysterious amulet, and he can't figure out. He knows it's magical, but he just can't figure out how to make it work. So he asks Cordella to help him out, and they embark on this quest to find out what this amulet does. And so at the same time, they have both been invited to the wedding of a prince that they know from their first adventure. They basically helped him save his kingdom as part of their quest to save the world. And he's, of course, very grateful. So he invites them to his wedding, and they need to get him something as a wedding gift. And they're seeking something unique, useful, and something that he doesn't already have. And that is also part of the overarching story of the second book.
Which I might add is excellent advice. If you're thinking about getting somebody a wedding gift, make it unique, useful, and something they don't already have.
Yes.
That's
So the
very good
I think
advice.
so if you look at the back cover copy starts out with the question, what do you get for the prince who has everything?
That sounds amazing. I was, reading a little bit about it and doing the look inside as I was putting it up on the website there yesterday. And I thought, oh, this looks like such a fun story. And the cover, which the viewers can see over there, just there's a dragon on it. There's a nice big, like, ruby or garnet amulet, and that was just a really eye-catching cover. So I want to congratulate you on obtaining that, however you obtain that.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to my cover designer. She designed both covers. Uh, Emily's Designs, Emily's World of Design is what her website's called. And Emily, I think I found her via the old Twitter. I like basically put out a call for cover designers, and she responded. And I've just been really really happy with the work that she's been given to me. It's just both covers are just really really striking.
They are. Yeah, that
Yeah,
definitely jumped out at me. That just said fantasy and quest, and I was like, "Oh, that's an amazing cover." So yeah,
yeah,
definite
and all
kudos.
and also as part of the second book, the part of as part of the adventure, the basically the characters need some guidance because they don't know exactly where they're going. So they go on a side quest to obtain this map. And this is a map. It's from the D&D adventure, a map I drew for my players. And so I sent her a scan of that, and she redrew it for me. And so that's in the book. And as a promotion for the book, I'm giving away a few of them. I had a full color print made on canvas, and I don't know if it's going to come through on Zoom here, but it's yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
Zoom is not making it come through. But so it's a fantasy map. It's printed on like nice canvas, full color print, and people can get one of those. All they have to do is go to klepsis.com and sign up for the newsletter, and then either buy the book or they can just share information about the contest on their social media. And as long as they tag me, or they can email me like a screenshot of the share if they're on a service that Klepsis isn't participating in. I'm giving away some of those. And in addition, the first book, the ebook, is on sale for only 99 cents to go, so you can get both of them, both ebooks for under $4 US.
excellent, excellent. Yeah, and I put all those links in the show notes. I am not on Blue Sky, so if I did not put the Blue Sky in correctly, somebody please let me know. I will gladly change it. So,
It looked right to me.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I just copied whatever you sent.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that's a service I'm not on. I was like, I love Mastodon, and which is how we met and how we
Yes.
connected. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
I find I get more engagement on Mastodon than anywhere else nowadays.
that's something I found too. Just even with follower accounts not being close to what I had on the old Twitter,
Hmm.
the engagement and the enthusiasm and the books did on hashtag and those guppy groups, and yeah, I really love the vibe over on Mastodon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we are almost coming to the half hour here. I have, oh goodness, I have loved this conversation, and I sense that we'll probably be talking more in the future. But why don't I know you already gave the website there, and we've got it in the show notes. Um, are there any other ways for readers or viewers to or listeners to contact you, and or do you have which one of your social medias do you prefer?
Uh, probably Mastodon is the one I spend most time on just because that's where the engagement is. That's certainly if you're on Mastodon, you can definitely look for Klepsis and you can he'll follow you back. No problem with that. But I do look at all of them, so anyone is fine. It's he's on X and he's also on Blue Sky. And of course, klepsis.com. He's got a blog there, and you should certainly sign up for the newsletter. He doesn't send one out more than once a month. Sometimes it's uh, things he's been writing, occasionally outtakes from the books that didn't actually make it into print, or sometimes I have all these maps and drawings from the adventure. So Klepsis shares those via the newsletter. And on the blog, he often talks about his hobby of taking care of shrunken monsters.
Fun, interesting.
That's sort of one of his hobbies. He magically shrinks and keeps as pets uh monsters, the monstrous creatures.
That just sounds, it just sounds like you're having a blast with that character or that persona, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
He takes himself a little too seriously, but I don't take him that seriously, so it's fun for me.
yeah, it sounds like it, and it's just uh, there. I just sense a warmth too when you're talking about it. From starting with teaching your children how to game and telling the
Hmm.
stories, and it just there's a lot of roughness going on in the world right now, and it feels like that's just such a, for those of us who are geeks, it's just like a warm hug to the
Yeah.
gaming and the fantasy, and I'm so glad that you agreed to share that with us.
Yeah. The books are they're just supposed to be entertaining. They're not
Hmm.
supposed to be kind of big themes or uh you know, deep psychological works or anything like that. They're just supposed to be entertaining. And so I hope that's people get that out of them.
That's good. Well, thank you so much for being here on Right Talk Wednesday.
Thanks for having me on. This was a great talk, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about these books.
You're very welcome. Well, I hope you and your family have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Oh, you too. Absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
it's the 60th anniversary of the debut of Doctor Who. People may not be aware of that. It's a big occasion here. So,
Yeah, here too. I just told my spouse, I said, I think we have new Doctor Who. We better check this out. Yeah, so
yes, 60th
well,
anniversary.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much again.